You think all parents do almost the same? Panadol Advance with its unique optical technology releases medicine fast.
Hey, what's up, wonderful people? Welcome to the Swahili classes for the weekend. I do hope that you're doing wonderful, and thank you so much for taking time to join us on this particular segment. Where we get together, we connect and get to have a wonderful time learning Swahili. I do hope that your weekend has been great so far, and for the remaining part of the weekend, I do hope that you're looking forward to positivity and good vibes as you go about your daily routine. This is a segment where we get to connect and we get to teach ourselves the beautiful language of Swahili. Others do remind us that on the African continent, we do have more than 1,500 languages, and Swahili happens to be one of the most prominent languages spoken by over 200 million speakers on and off the continent. And therefore, you are actually on the rightful platform, and this is where you can get to interact, ask questions, you can get to maybe ask for clarifications and everything else in between when it comes to matters Swahili. Remember, this beautiful language has 5 vowels only. These are A, E, O, U, and those 5 vowels we do have, for example, used in the words, for example, anguka. Anguka simply means to fall, and therefore, if you're talking about the first vowel R, the first vowel R can be, for example, in the word anguka, and anguka simply means to fall. Anguka simply means to fall. It means to fall, and that is an example of the word using the first vowel R, which is the English letter A. The English letter A makes up the Swahili vowel R. And therefore, we move from that, we do have the second vowel, which is the vowel F. For example, in the word endelea, endelea means to continue, endelea means to continue, and this is the vowel M, which is the English letter E, becomes a Swahili vowel A. So endelea means to continue, or you can have a different example. For example, eleza. Eleza simply means to explain. If you're talking about explain something, you simply say eleza, and that is the second vowel A that you can get used as an example. Apart from that, we do have the third vowel, A, E, which is the vowel E. For example, in the word inuka, inuka means to rise up, inuka means to rise up, it means to rise up. And the vowel E, the Swahili vowel E is the English letter I. The Swahili vowel E is the English letter I. For example, in the word inuka, if you're talking about another different example, you would say igiza. Igiza simply means to act. Igiza, it simply means to act. I-G-I-Z-A, it means to act. Igiza, it means to act. And if you're talking about maybe perhaps the other vowel, we do have R, A, E, and then O. The vowel O is the English letter O. For example, in the word ondoka. If you're talking about ondoka, it simply means to leave. It means to leave. And therefore, if someone says ninataka kuondoka, ninataka kuondoka, it's understood to be I want to leave. course, leave, you do translate that as ondoka with the vowel O, which is the English letter O. So I am talking about A, B, E, A, E, A, E, O, U, A, E, E, O, U, as constituting the vowels in Swahili. The vowels in Swahili language, the vowels in Swahili language. That is how you get to understand them. And we have not touched on the last one. The last one is the vowel U, which is the English letter U. The vowel U is the English letter U. And therefore, for example, if you're talking about ugua, ugua means to hail from something. Ugua, ugua, ugua simply means to hail. It means to hail. And therefore, if someone says, ninaugua maradhi ya kipindupindu, ninaugua maradhi ya kipindupindu, it simply means that they are ailing from cholera. That is what we do call kipindupindu in Sweden. They are ailing from cholera. And therefore, we do have those 5 vowels. You can use your palm to represent them. You can simply raise up your palm like this and say A, E, O, U. And for those 5 vowels, we want to pick on one vowel, which is the vowel U, the final vowel U there. This final vowel U, it has many uses. It has many uses, the vowel U, and it is used to represent you, the second person singular. It is used to represent the second person singular, the second person singular. So therefore, if you're talking about U, the vowel U, it is used to represent the second person singular. For example, U natoka wapi? U natoka wapi? U natoka wapi? Unatoka wapi? That simply is where are you coming from? Where are you coming from? Where are you coming from? That is unatoka wapi. And therefore, you realize in that example, you're saying that if you're pointing to someone and you're talking about you, where are you? Where are you? If someone wants to ask, where are you in Swahili, they would ask, uko wapi? Uko wapi? That is simply the way they would ask, uko wapi? Or where are you? Uko wapi? That is for where are you? And therefore, that vowel U, it has that use as pointing to the second person singular. Pointing to the second person singular. Remember, in our class yesterday, we learned that if you're talking about the first person singular, I or myself, we do get to use the syllable ni. Ni points to I, it points to myself. So therefore, if you do say ni, that is a syllable which points to I, all myself. I, all myself. If you do say ninatoka nyumbani, ninatoka nyumbani, it means I'm coming from home. I'm coming from home. I am coming from home. And therefore, for the first person singular, we do say ni, the syllable ni. For the second person singular, which is you, we do say u. Unatoka wapi? Unaitwa nani? And therefore, if you're getting to use those 2 particular different examples, you would therefore say ni natoka nyumbani, or you might say natoka nyumbani if you're talking about the second person singular, or the second person singular, that is u, with the vowel u, which is the English letter u. But if you're talking about the first person singular, which is I, or myself, then you would say ni natoka nyumbani, ni natoka nyumbani. Remember, we have learned on this particular platform that if you're requesting for maybe perhaps a favor, or you're requesting for there's something that you request for, you simply do say ni nataka, which is pointing to self, to I, ni nataka. And therefore, you would use this particular phrase, ni nataka, which means I want, I want, I want. So I, you're pointing to self, you say for I, you say ni. Then taka is want. Taka is want. So therefore, ninataka, has three components: ni, then na, and then taka. Which is the three components are the I, the first person singular, that is I, which is represented by ni. Then you have the na. The na is a tense marker for the present continuous. So therefore, if you're talking about the tense marker for the present continuous, then you would actually say ni na taka. Ni na taka. Because taka is a root verb and taka means to want. Taka means to want. So therefore, you would say ni na taka. Ni na taka. But if it was for the second person singular, which is you would say unataka. Unataka. So for example, if someone is asking, what do you want? They would ask, unataka nini? Unataka. Unataka nini? Unataka nini? Because nini simply is for what? Nini is nini simply interprets into what. And therefore, if you're talking about what do you want, someone would ask you, je, unataka nini? Then, if you're a brother, they will ask you, je, unataka nini kaka? Je, unataka nini kaka? Because kaka is that word for brother. If you're talking about a sister, you would say dada. So therefore, someone would ask you, je, unataka nini dada? Je, unataka nini dada? And for dada, we of course have to remember that represents sister. Of course, if you're trying to learn Swahili, I always urge you to try make sure that you're doing practice, because I always do say practice makes perfect. So if you're referring to a brother, you do say kaka. If you're referring to a sister, you do say dada. If you're referring to a mother, you do say mama, which is M-A, when you're referring to a mother. And when you're referring to a father, you normally would say baba, which is B-A-B-A for father. B-A-B-A for father. And that is simply how you get to refer to the members, the close members of our family. Apart from that, we have the extended family, because like you'd have the cousin. For a cousin, you would say binamu for a cousin. And if you're talking about a nephew, you would say mpwa, which is for a nephew. Mpwa, which is for a nephew. And mpwa also happens to apply for a niece. A nephew or a niece, you therefore refer to them as mpwa for a nephew or a niece. And that is simply how you get to refer to them in Swahili. Therefore, if you're asking someone, say, ungependa nini mama? Ungetaka nini mama? That will be, what would you like, mother? What would you like, mother? If someone is asking, say, ungependa nini kaka? They are asking, what would you like, brother? What would you like, brother? And remember, when we are starting off these classes, I normally do tell you, karibu sana, karibu sana. So therefore, if someone was to welcome you to their abode, welcome you to their humble abode, they would actually tell you, karibu sana kaka, if you're a brother. If they are welcoming you to their house and you're a sister, they would say, karibu sana dada. If they are welcoming you to the house and you're an elderly woman, they will tell you, karibu sana mama, which is very much welcome, which is karibu sana. And then they would add that other word that means shows maybe your age, or shows maybe your gender, because they would say mama or baba, or they would say mvulana or msichana. Mvulana is a young man. Mvulana is a young man or a boy. It means a boy. Then msichana simply means a girl. Msichana simply means a girl. So therefore, if someone says, nimepatana na msichana mrembo, that would mean I have met or I have come across a beautiful girl, because the adjective for beauty is mrembo. So therefore, if someone says msichana mrembo, then they are meaning beautiful. And that is exactly what we do refer to that. Remember, we shall be getting to adjectives. We still haven't focused on gotten to that particular juncture of talking about adjectives. but there are so many adjectives, only that you need to realize that adjectives are influenced. The order of adjectives is influenced by the particular noun classes the words that you're describing fall under. For example, if you're talking about msichana, you would say msichana mrembo, msichana mrembo, because that falls in the wa class of noun. The wa class of noun, which is a very fast noun class, constitutes all the words in the Swahili language that start with the consonant in their singular and start with the consonant, the syllable wa in the plural. For example, I am talking about mvulana, who is a boy. If you're talking about mvulana hodari ameanguka chini, mvulana hodari ameanguka chini, you simply say that the popular boy, a very popular boy, has fallen down. But if you're talking about the plural sense of that particular sentence, you will say wavulana hodari wameanguka chini. So you do realize that the word starts with the syllable, the consonant in the singular, and it starts with the syllable wa in their plural. So that forms the first class of nouns, the first class of nouns. It's not even difficult to understand that. What happens is that you need to keep on exercising and practicing and practicing and practicing. And also you have to ask yourself, this Swahili word that I'm talking about, in its singular, what is the first letter in the singular? And then you have to ask yourself, what is the first letter or the first syllable in its plural form? And therefore, you'll be able to understand much better. For example, if you're talking about the second class of nouns, the second class of nouns is referred to as ki vi. So if you're talking about the second class of nouns, it means that you're starting the syllable ki in the singular, and then you shall start the syllable vi in the plural. For example, you're talking about kisu. Kisu means a knife in Swahili. If someone says ninataka kisu, it means they want a knife. If someone says ninataka visu, visu now happens to be the plural form of it. So that would be visu, and those are knives. Those are knives. So you realize that in the singular, it starts with the same syllable ki. In the plural, it starts with the syllable vi. So that falls in the ki vi class of noun. The ki vi class of noun, which have always insisted that these mostly constitute of inanimate objects. For example, a stick, for example, a knife, for example, a key. Because of a key, we do say kifunguo. Kifunguo. If you try to open a place, you say nipe kifunguo. Kifunguo, nipe kifunguo for a key. And if you wanted many keys, you wanted to have many keys for the place, you would say nipe vifunguo. Nipe vifunguo, which is you want many keys. You want many keys to open up a particular place. You might say ninataka kufungua nyumba, tafadhali nipe kifunguo. Tafadhali nipe kifunguo. But if you about many keys, a bunch of keys, you will say vifunguo, vifunguo. And therefore, that falls in the ki vi class of nouns. And we have many more examples, like I have said. You might say kioo. Kioo simply means a mirror. If someone tells you ziangalie kwa kioo, K-I-O-O, it means a mirror. But if we're talking about many mirrors, they would say vioo. They would say vioo. And if someone is talking about a bed, which is also another inanimate object, for one bed, we do say ki, ta, nda. For one bed, we do say kitanda for bed. If we're talking about many beds, these are inanimate objects, you do say vitanda, vitanda. If you're talking about that, it's for many beds. If you're talking about maybe a factory in Swahili, it's known as kiwanda. Kiwanda, which means a factory, kiwanda, which is for one factory or for one manufacturing plant, we do say kiwanda. But if you're talking about many factories, you do say viwanda. The last example is for a book. If I wanted a particular book, I would say nipe kitabu changu. Give me my book. Nipe kitabu changu. So kitabu, K-I-T-A-U, simply means a book. But if you're talking about many books, then you would say vitabu, because that falls in the key V class of nouns. It falls in the key V class of nouns, and it's not even difficult to understand. I always do say that the more you practice, the more or the better you become at this particular language. You have to practice and practice until you become perfect. There are many resources that you can get to use online. We do have the Duolingo app, which is available on our online resources. You can have the archives of some of these videos that you have recorded, and therefore you can watch the archives of those particular videos on different channels like this one, which is the BLACKHOTFIRE network. You can also watch them on BLACKHOTFIRE Africa, and all those videos you'll find them there, and they are wonderful because you are able to go step by step, and you are also able to go at your own pace, because sometimes you just need to have your own particular pace in which you are doing things, and eventually you become much better at the beautiful language. We do have many other languages on the continent. For example, we do have the isiZulu. The isiZulu is spoken by the people of South Africa, by the Zulu community of the South in South Africa. It's known as isiZulu. We do have the Bemba language, which is spoken by the people of Zimbabwe and also Zambia. We do have the Nyanja language. The Nyanja language is spoken by the people of Zimbabwe and Zambia as well. We do have the Kenya-Rwanda, which is spoken by the people of Rwanda. We have the Kibaganda, spoken by the people of Uganda. And then all these other beautiful countries, we do have different languages. If you go to Ethiopia, you are able to speak and converse with about 81 languages, because for the 81 different tribes in 81 tribes in Ethiopia, it means all of these tribes, they have their own languages, and therefore they are able to communicate with those particular languages. In Kenya, we do have 47, which includes the Maasais. We do have the Maasais. We do have the Kikuyus. We do have the Kambas. We do have all those different groups. But for the ones I just mentioned, for example, if we are talking about Ethiopia, in Ethiopia we'll find many different languages from these groups. For example, this one, which is known as the Morsi tribe. The Morsi tribe, it's very popular because it's one that makes a hole on their lip, the under lip of the women. And then they decorate it with a wooden circle plate, and that shows their level of beauty. And you might argue that should not be by any standard a level of beauty. That is exactly what they do, because they also have holes, make holes in their ears, and then they put some big sticks as earrings inside there. And we also do have the Hama tribe in Ethiopia as well. But the focus for today is on Swahili. Swahili is actually a Bantu language, which came about because of the Bantu people of the East African coast, and then they interacted with the Arabs, who also brought that Arabic influence to Swahili, and therefore Swahili has Arabic influence. And this Arabic influence, you can point to the Arabic influence by simply talking about what we call the special class of consonants. So for the consonants in Swahili, we do have all the letters of the English alphabet, apart from the 5 that I just shared with you, from A, E, or U. Apart from those, we have all the rest constituting the Swahili consonant. So all the letters of the English alphabet, you can find them in Swahili consonants, apart from X and Q, because we do not have X, we do not have Q in Swahili. Also, the consonants are not made up. You also subtract the 5 vowels, which is A, E, or U. But the rest, they are found in Swahili. And apart from that, we add what we call the special class of consonants. And this class of consonants, they include CH. For example, in the word chakula, chakula means food. If someone says nipe chakula, it simply means that they are telling you to give them food, nipe chakula. If someone says beigani, when you're talking about gani, the GH, beigani, the GH for something expensive, that is also another special class of consonants. We do have the SH, for example, in Shuguri or in Shule. We do have another special class of consonants, which is the NG with an apostrophe. NG with an apostrophe is found in the words like ngombe, or in the word ngangana. If you're struggling or if you're striving, then you have to use that particular word ngangana, which shows that there is some difficulty somewhere and you're struggling. Bado unangangana. If someone says bado unangangana, simply means that you are still struggling, And those are some of the examples. For example, in the word dhahabu, it means gold. So therefore, the DH, this is two cluster consonants put together. The consonant da and the consonant ha, they are put together, so they become dhahabu. The consonant ga and the consonant ha put together, they become ga. You say ka. For example, in the word garama. Talking about another word is shughuli. I've given an example of shughuli. If we're talking about another one, is a consonant ta and ha, they become ta. For example, telatini or temanini. That is simply how you get to explain those two particular examples. They are not difficult, but those from what we call the special class of consonants, they are many. But for the cases of our study right here, we shall use just a few of those. Up to that particular point, if you have a question, please ask. Kama uko na swali, tafadhali uliza. If you do have a question, please ask. I will be more than glad to respond to you to the extent that I know that particular answer. In Swahili, we normally do call the question swali. We call the question swali. But if you're talking about an answer, we normally do say jibu for an answer. But if you're simply just talking about a question, you would say swali. So therefore, I would ask, je, nani akona swali? Je, nani akona swali? Then you would respond and say, mimi, which is I, mimi, niko na swali, which is I have a question. But before we get into that, we shall take a short break. We shall take some music. We are still live. Remember, we are still live with the class. But we shall enjoy a song which is known as Inaniuma Sana. Inaniuma Sana is by Juma Nature. Juma Nature is an artist from Tanzania. And I think his latest project is known as Ugali. So if you're a big fan of Tanzanian music, please check out the latest project of Juma Nature. It's known as Ugali. And Ugali is a staple food for most East Africans. You know, if you go to Uganda, you will enjoy a whole lot of Ugali. If you come to Kenya, you will enjoy a whole lot of Ugali. If you go to Rwanda, you will also have Shima, which is what they call it in Rwanda. But for now, let's enjoy this particular song. Let's live. We shall be right back in a few seconds. That is a song that I just shared with you. That is a song shared with you. It's known as Inaniuma Sana, and it's better than only Juma Nature. I always do say that when you're talking about Tanzanian music, you have to include Juma Nature. He is signed to Sony Music, and Sony Music has like interest in Africa. I think it has signed a couple of artists in East Africa and also in South Africa. But for Juma Nature, he's one guy who makes choruses very, very easy. If you're looking for a beautiful chorus by a Tanzanian artist, then I think that particular artist that you're looking for is Juma Nature. And I'm talking about especially in the hip-hop circles. In the hip-hop circles or the urban music circles, then you would find Juma Nature to be of great help when it comes to how you want to learn, how you want to do your choruses in Swahili. Nonetheless, welcome back to class. The name of that particular song is known as Inaniuma Sana. Inaniuma simply means it pains me, it pains me, it pains me. Remember, we have 5 vowels in Swahili. One of these is the vowel E. The vowel E, which is the English letter I. The English letter I, which is the vowel E, can also be used to refer to it. It. If you're talking about it, something that is harming, something that is hurting you, you would say, it hurts me, it hurts me. The vowel that you use to represent it is E. Therefore, you would say inanioma to mean that it is paining or that it is aching my heart to see this happen. And therefore, remember, we have given another example of the vowel O, which is used to represent you, the second person singular. If we do say, unaongea polepole, unaongea polepole, that simply means that you're speaking a little bit too quiet. You're speaking a little bit too quiet, and therefore, maybe perhaps people want you to be a little bit louder. You would say, tafadhali ongeza sauti. So if we're talking about tafadhali, that is a Swahili word for please. Tafadhali. Therefore, you would say, please. Tafadhali ongeza sauti. Ongeza means to add, which is a perfect example of word with the vowel O. The vowel O. Therefore, you would say ongeza sauti. Ongeza means to add. Therefore, add volume. And remember, if you're talking about something that is mine or yours, mine, we normally do say yangu. We normally do say yangu for mine. If something that is mine, we do say yangu for mine. And then we do say yako for yours, which is for yako. Yako is for yours. Yako is yours. Someone says sauti yangu, they are talking about my voice. Sauti yangu, sauti yangu, it means my voice. It means my voice. A voice. If someone is talking about your voice, they would say sauti yako for your voice, If someone is talking about maybe a book, a book, something that is inanimate, they would say kitabu changu, which is my book. Because this angu, it changed from yangu to changu because this kitabu falls in the Kiwi class of nouns. And therefore, even the way you represent mine will be changu, not yangu. So say kitabu changu kimepotea, which is my book is lost. Kitabu changu kimepotea. My book is lost. And you might ask, je, nani amekipata kitabu changu? That will be who has come across my book. Remember, if you're talking about your item, you do say yangu. Y-A-N-Y-A-N-G-U. Mine. You would say simu yangu. Simu is a phone. Simu in Swahili is a phone. Simu is a phone, and you might say nipe. Nipe is a phrase. It means give me. Nipe is a two-syllable phrase. Nipe, it means give me. Therefore, if someone says nipe simu yangu, it simply means give me my phone. Nipe simu yangu. That would be nipe simu yangu, which is give me my phone. Swahili is not complicated. When it comes to the sentence structure for Swahili, it's normally very, very almost close to English. You do say SVO, which is the subject, the verb, and then the object that it describes. For example, if you're talking about mtoto mzuri ameanguka, then that would be the popular child. The good child has fallen. You would say mtoto is the subject, and mtoto is the baby or the child. And therefore you're talking about mtoto mzuri. That is a good child. You say mtoto mzuri, That simply means a good child, a good child. Then you say mtoto mzuri ameanguka. Mtoto mzuri ameanguka. Then that would be a good child has fallen. A good child has fallen, and it's not even difficult when it comes to learning this beautiful language of Swahili. So anyone has a question, please ask. Anyone has a question, please ask. Like I did say, it's a SVO, SV and O, SVO, which simply means the subject, verb, the subject, the verb, and the object, subject, verb, and object. That is the order of the sentence structure, even in Swahili, apart from some cases when you might be talking about something a little bit difficult or different, but that is the exact order of words in Swahili, and it's not even difficult. I always do say that when you practice, the more you practice, the better you become the language. And that is why I actually urge anyone to check out the different archives of our classes. We have had classes on Saturdays and even on Sundays. And the hope is that with time, you are able to go through these particular videos, you're able to internalize the language, you're able to first and foremost appreciate it, because you would have to first appreciate something so that you are able to get better at it. And then you can be able now to learn it, because you cannot just jump into something this direct. What happens is that you have to have an appreciation of the language first. And once you do, then now you go into having an interest in learning the language. I always do say that if you're trying to learn the language, please make sure that you're learning it with friends. Make sure that you're learning it with family, because they will help keep you accountable. You cannot just say, oh, I want to learn this language by my own self. It will be very, very easy. Yes, you can do that, and it's very much possible for you to do that. But language is a tool for communication, and you're speaking to other individuals. And therefore, that's why I always do say, please try and make sure that you are active learning the language with someone else. They're helping you with the language, and you're helping and you're learning with them. And therefore, it becomes a little bit much easier when it comes to even you practicing the language, because someone will help keep you accountable. If you're talking about maybe the verbs, if you're talking about the nouns, if you're talking about the grammar of Swahili, you can be able to learn that pretty much quick, simply by just engaging someone. You can engage your at work. You can learn the language with friends. You can learn the language with you can just have someone that you learn the language with, and I think that would actually be a very, very good thing. So for those who have joined for today, I always do say, be active learner, an active student, not an active student, so that if you do have a question, you can always interject and you can always ask a question, and I'm always here and glad to give you an answer. That is what you ought to do. Ask a question, and I will be more than glad to share with you an answer if it is in fact related to what you have just learned, or something that you need to learn that is close to within the context of our class. I will be more than glad to teach you and respond to you, and maybe perhaps through that particular way, we are able to move together in a fashion that is mostly understandable to every one of us. I was saying that Tanzania is a place that you can visit. And if you go to Tanzania, they learn their chemistry with Swahili. They learn geography with Swahili. They do everything in Swahili. Even when it comes to, it's the national language and it's also the official language. Therefore, it is a language of mass. If you're trying to go to the market and you're trying to purchase something, or you're trying to bargain for a better price for that particular item, then most people will actually do it in Swahili. Of course, Tanzania was a German colony, and then later to the British after the World War. And you happen to realize that most people are very fluent even in English, but still they value the Swahili language so much. And that is also the truth for Zanzibar, which is the island part of Tanzania. And we also do have other East African towns, for example, Lamu, Kilifi, Nyali, the town itself, Mombasa, and other different places that you will go in the East African coast, and you will be able to enjoy your Swahili, speaking with people, connecting with people, getting to ask them questions, getting to know more about their culture. because I do believe language is one of the most key or instrumental parts of any culture. And therefore, it doesn't necessarily mean that you have to be an anthropologist to be interested in the culture or the language of the people. You simply can do it out of curiosity. And once you're curious about something, then I think the next step will be for you to do is maybe perhaps to start asking questions and start learning more about the culture, learning about language. One thing I realized about Swahili, and I also did happen to realize, is that in Swahili, Swahili is not gender specific. What happens is that someone will tell you, amefika nyumbani, amefika nyumbani. If someone says amefika nyumbani, it means he or she has arrived home. He or she has arrived home. And you might be left there wondering, nani amefika nyumbani? Nani amefika nyumbani? Which is who has reached home or who has arrived home. Therefore, unless I tell you, mwanamke amefika nyumbani, that is when you will know they're talking about a woman. Or when they say mwanaume amefika nyumbani, that is the only time you would know that they are talking about a man. But in these other cases, if someone says alienda nyumbani, you will not know whether alienda nyumbani was a man or alienda nyumbani was a woman. That is just a particular aspect of the language which you get to realize even the more you interact with the language or the more you interact with the people speaking the language. You realize that Swahili is not really gender specific. But there are many other aspects to the language. For example, the mannerisms that go together with the language. And I'm talking about the politeness. You know, Swahili is very, very polite. Swahili is very, very courteous. And this is what I did say. It is very important for you to learn at least these five polite terms. We do say karibu for welcome. We do say kwaheri for goodbye. We do say asante for thank you. We do say tafadhali for please. And we do say jihadhari for please beware. So those are my 5 fingers. I put up my palm like this. I show you that there are so many common courtesy words in Swahili. But for the sake of what you ought to remember, please know that shukran or asante is thanks. Please know that kwaheri is goodbye. Please know that tafadhali is please. Please know that jihadhari simply means beware. And that are some of the words that you can get to maybe try out. If someone has accorded you some, maybe shared with you something, and you just wanted to be thankful, you just wanted to say thank you, you would actually say asante sana. For example, you might say, hey, niko na njaa, which means nahisi njaa, which means I'm hungry. You say nipe chakula kidogo. If you say nipe chakula kidogo, that simply means give me a little bit of food. Nipe chakula kidogo. That means give me a little food. Nipe chakula kidogo. Therefore, if someone came with a platter, and they served you some rice and beef, and then you told me was full, you would say asante sana, which is I'm very much thankful. Nimeshukuru is I thank you, nimeshukuru. And you might say nimeshiba sana. Nimeshiba simply means that it's a phrase meaning that you're full, your stomach is full. So you say nimeshukuru. It means I have thanked you. I have appreciative. I am appreciative. All I have thanked you. I have thanked you. I have thanked you. That is simply what you are. That is simply what you get to say. Nimeshukuru or ninashukuru. Ninashukuru is the na is a present continuous. So it's a tense marker for the present continuous. So therefore, if anyone told you asante sana Spikes, they would say thank you so much Spikes. Asante sana Spikes. Thank you so much Spikes. Ni nashukuru. Ni nashukuru is I appreciate. Ni nashukuru. That means I appreciate. And therefore, that is a way in which you can simply be very courteous and polite in the language. Remember, Swahili is a very, very polite language. And you also ought to observe the mannerisms when you are conversing in Swahili. I always did say that if you met up a group of people, the way you say hello to them is hamjambo. Hamjambo. Hamjambo is for a group, hello for a group of people. But if you say hello to one individual, remember the greeting is who. Hujambo. Hujambo is H-U-J-A-M-B-O. H-U-J-A-M-B-O for Hujambo. hujambo. That is hello to one individual. But if you're saying hello to many individuals, you would say hamjambo, hamjambo. And that is simply how you say to them. Maybe perhaps the visitors, they came to your house, or that is one visitor who just came by to visit. We say hujambo, dada, which is hello sister, karibu sana, or njoo ndani. Njoo ndani is welcome inside. Njoo ndani is welcome inside. Remember, someone might say njoo, which is to signal you to come, or they might say kuja. They would also say kuja, they came, which is also signaling you to come. They would also signal you to come, and they would say kuja, kuja. Someone might say njoo ndani, which is welcome inside, or they might say kuja. K-U-J-A is come, and therefore that is understood to be very, very easy, and it's not difficult. I always do say, please make sure that you're practicing. The more you practice, the better you become at the language. So please make sure that you're practicing. Practice it with your friends. Practice it with your colleagues. Practice it with your workmates. Anyway, tafadhali practice. That is what you do say. Practice is kupiga zoezi. Piga zoezi. Piga zoezi. Zoezi means practice. Zoezi. Piga zoezi. It means to practice. And the more you practice, the easier it becomes. Remember, we have 5 vowels. These are not to forget. Remember, we do have those 5 common courtesy words. These are also not to forget. And remember, we have also talked about the uses of those 2 vowels. So keep on practicing those, so that in our next class, you would be able to know that these 5 vowels, the vowel E, it represents the English letter I, it represents it. So you say, inatembea haraka, it simply means it is moving fast. It is moving fast. If you do say, inasonga pole pole, it means it is moving slow. It is moving slow. And therefore, those are some of the ways in which you can be able to use these particular examples of vowel E, because it also represents it. The vowel U represents the first person singular. Unataka nini? Unaitwa nani? Unaenda wapi? Utakula nini? If someone is asking utakula nini, utakula nini, utakula nini simply means what will you eat? What will you eat? Therefore, when they get to ask what will you eat, and to signal a question, someone might put that particular word J, which is J-E. So therefore, it might be J. J is simply to signal the start of a question. J is simply to start or to signal the start of that particular question. So in our next class, that is what we shall be also be embarking more on. We shall get into adjectives, because when you refer to our notes, we shall realize that where we reached last time is where we ought to have gone into adjectives. And I did say that adjectives, they get to explain. They explain the noun, or they get to explain either the subject. And therefore, if you talk about mtoto mzuri, you're talking about the subject, good child. If you talk about mtoto mpotovu, you talk about the child who is indisciplined. If you're talking about mama hodari, you're talking about a woman who is very popular. If you're talking about kijana shupavu, you're talking about a very bold young man, or mvulana shupavu. If you talk about msichana mtukutu, you're talking about a very reckless girl. So therefore, we shall talk about adjectives in our next class. But please check into that particular word. It means elelezi. Elelezi, this is the word for adjective. And if you study it, you will know. If you study it, you would know that elelezi means adjectives. And I gave you an example, and I did say that the word eleza, it means to explain. The word eleza, it means to explain. It means to explain. So therefore, if someone says eleza zaidi, tafadhali eleza zaidi, it means please explain more. So the adjectives, they simply explain. They explain the subject, or they explain the object. They can explain either of that in the context of the Swahili language. So please join us in our next class. For now, I want to thank you so much for being with us in class. But before I wind up, I just want to share with you the network website. It's www www.blackhotfirenetwork.com, and once you visit onto the blackhotfirenetwork.com, you will be able to find a whole lot of items on there. You might find the store, and the store has a whole lot of products that you can buy. I'm talking about things like nutritional supplements. If you're very, very active, maybe perhaps with things like sports, or maybe perhaps with your work routine, it involves a whole lot of work. Sometimes you might need to have the supplements, and these supplements, they are available on the platform, and you can always go there and maybe perhaps patronize the platform by simply getting some of those particular products. It might be nutritional supplements, like I did say. So if you click on this tab, let me just show you real quick as you wind up. If you click on this tab, here, this is a simple way in which you can actually just go there direct. Just search for BLACKHOTFIRENetwork.com, and therefore you can click on this store. If you click on this store, it will take you to the BLACKHOTFIRE Network Sports Store. Once you are on the network sports store, then you would be able to find items like iron supplements. You can be able to find calcium supplements. We do have vitamins and minerals. We do have proteins and blends. We do have things like amino acids and plants. We do have beauty supplements. We do have foods and beverages. We do have natural extracts. We do have specialty supplements. What you need to do is click on this thing. You can also sign up. And once you sign up, you will be able to just find out what are the new offers. What are the new offers on the site one right there, and maybe perhaps what can you buy for yourself, what can you shop for yourself, like when you do have the protein supplements, the collagen right there. We do have the beauty products on there as well, and all these other amazing items that you will be able to patronize and support by getting even the vitamins and other minerals on there as well. So it's www.blackhotfirenetwork.com, and then you click on the store page, and once you are there, it will actually show you a whole lot of things that you can get to buy, or that you can get to enjoy really by just visiting that network website on there. There is also African blog, which you can get to enjoy on the African on the website right there. If you click on this item, it shows you the African blog. And as you finish, it shows you this is the African blog. If you click on this, you'll be able to see a whole lot of updates and news. And these are news that regards what is happening with the African continent, or what are the trends with the African continent. And therefore, you'll be able to be in what's happening with Nigeria, what is happening with South Africa, what is happening with Ghana, what is happening with Kenya. Once you click on this African blog right there, you can also enjoy sports, enjoy African Kenya news. You can enjoy the videos and other shows from our previous live streams. All these are actually available, and you would be in the rightful place getting to see what's good with that. So for now, we shall end there. I hope you join us in our next class. I hope you can join us in our next class. But for now, I hope that we can end it there. And I hope, I do hope that you can also get to subscribe. If you haven't subscribed, please make sure you do. If you haven't subscribed, I would urge you to simply visit and subscribe. Because it is very, very important that you also get to do so, and that you keep it interactive on there, and also turn on the notifications as well, because it is very, very important. You also turn on the notifications. So I think we shall end on this particular note. Let me share with us one song, which is both in Swahili and English. It's known as Mina Train by Soul. Yes, that is what the sound is like by Saudi. That is what the sound is like by Saudi Soul. And you happen to realize that this band is very, very talented. They represent East Africa very, very well. And the name of the song is Amina Train and says, lazima ujue tofauti ya mwalimu na mwanafunzi ni ujuzi. It means you have to know the difference. The tofauti simply means tofauti. Tofauti simply means difference. Therefore, if someone says lazima ujue tofauti ya mwanafunzi na mwalimu mkufunzi, then mwanafunzi is a student. Mwanafunzi is a student. It says that the difference between a teacher and a student is a knowledge. Ujuzi. Ujuzi is knowledge or skill. Knowledge translates into skill. Translates into skill. Translates into skill. Therefore, that is what he is talking about. Lazima ujue tofauti ya mwalimu na mwanafunzi. Mwalimu na mwanafunzi ni ujuzi. Tofauti ya mwalimu na mwanafunzi ni ujuzi. And therefore, I think we shall end it there. We do have so many proverbs in Swahili. We call them methali. And this is maneno ya what do you call wisdom, words of wisdom. We call it words of wisdom. And in Swahili, we have so many wonderful words of wisdom from different Swahili subcultures. Because if you go to the East African coast, it is not just one culture. There are a multiplicity. There are many cultures in the Swahili region, and therefore all these cultures they come together and they form one unique culture. It is the culture of the East African, the coastal people, but they are a bit different. But when you go there, you will still be able to communicate very, very well in your Swahili. You will still be able to communicate very, very well. And maybe perhaps even transact. You know, you might be there for tourism, as a tourist. You might be there as just a visitor going to look into matters business. Whatever you might have taken you there, the goal really is just to connect to the people and also to be able to connect to the culture. I believe that is one of the biggest goals. Even if you want to conduct business with people, I think it is still also very important that you are able to converse with the language of these particular people. I think that it's still very, very important, valuable to understand the cultures and the norms, because the language goes beyond the words. Language is also very, very closely interwoven with the culture. So the language is very closely interwoven with the culture. And therefore, if you get to make it a habit, to practice a few of these Swahili words, I think over time, you will become very, very good at it. And you will be able to communicate in the language over time. But I always do say that it takes time. We do say practice makes perfect. So it's a whole lot of time. You need to be very, very committed and dedicated to learning the language. And therefore, in that regard, you will be able to understand these words perhaps very, very easily. You'll be able to practice them with your colleagues. You'll be able to practice them with your family. Maybe it might be your spouse. Maybe it might be your children. Maybe it might be your sisters or your brothers. Once you are able to communicate with them in Swahili, then I think that also grows your interest in terms of exploring the culture itself, because a language is just a doorway to the culture. Once again, a language is just a doorway to the culture. It is just the entrance, the step that you get into understanding to this particular culture. Once now you understand different facets of culture, you are able to now connect much better with people. Once again, I want to thank you so much for being with us on today's broadcast. We never take your company for granted. And we hope that you have an enjoyable rest of your weekend. For me, Spikes, I want to tell you Kwaheri. Kwaheri simply means goodbye. I want to wish you a happy and a productive rest of the weekend and even a wonderful week ahead. Till next time, Math is allowed. Kwaheri Akwana. See you next weekend, Saturdays and on Sundays around the same time right here on the BLACKHOTFIRE Network. Goodbye. Kwaheri.